Welcome to the Jockey Club, a podcast looking at the movie Let It Ride, one scene at a time. My name is Dan Delgado, and we're at historic Hialeah Park where one man is having the best day of his life.
I'm having a good day.
So come on in and hang out while we talk about this day and the greatest movie of all time, Let It Ride. Don't worry about that guy at the door. I've got you covered. You can even
take my seat to the Jockey Club.
Welcome back one more time to the Jockey Club. My name is Dan Delgado. Today we are rewatching the 10th scene of Let It Ride. And really, it's the 10th scene according to me. This is a scene right where Trotter returns to Marty's bar after his big win and gets a cold reception. Back with me to discuss this scene is Eric Delgado, my former radio co-host, a gambler, and the person I saw Let It Ride with all the way back in 1989. And if you're playing along at home, this is going to be from minute 27:26 to 29:11. Now, I must warn you that for some reason I was wearing a headset when I was recording this, and I kind of sound like I'm on a phone, but it's really not that big of a deal. But I felt that I had to tell you anyway, and I'm probably never wearing this headset again. All right, now let's head on up one more time to my usual table at the Jockey Club to rediscuss the 10th scene of Let It Ride. Oh, Eric, there's a number of reasons why I have summoned you back to the Jockey Club, and it has been, it's been 10 months since the last time that we did one. Yeah, it was December of last year when we wrapped this up, but I had always promised to do a bonus episode, and today is the day that we're going to do the bonus episode. So there's a couple of reasons for this. So reason one, I have a different podcast that I want to promote. My other podcast, The Industry, which is a documentary podcast about overlooked film history, has just returned for its 5th season. You can get it wherever you got this podcast, or you can get it at industrypodcast.org. But also, because of all of the things that I heard from people regarding the Jockey Club, right?
Yes.
The one consistent thing that I heard was that they wanted us to redo scene 10. And that is the scene where Trotter goes back into the bar after having won and everybody is not happy with him. And that's because when I recorded it, it was with someone who did not like Let It Ride. So if you were a Let It Ride fan and you were enjoying the podcast, you came along to episode 10, and then you heard me talking to somebody who was like, yeah, I don't like this movie. Trotter is a Creighton. He actually used the phrase Creighton. And so, yeah, people weren't happy about that. And I was actually pretty surprised. I was not expecting that reaction. So anyway, so it's, yeah.
You're talking about that no good stinking crumb bum. Yeah. I remember that guy. I was pretty peeved myself.
Okay, so the scene that we're going over today, you know this one well. I already just described it to you. It's not a very long scene. So you ready to dig into this one? The scene begins with Sid. He's sitting at the bar, and he's explaining to Evangeline how the head of the beer it contains everything that you need to live. All your vitamins and minerals, your A's, your B's, your C's, they're all right there. Yes.
They're all there.
And then he goes to settle up, and he pulls out a black credit card. And Marty, the bartender, looks at it and just says, "Are you kidding?" So this is just our look at these shenanigans of what's going on at Marty's bar. Gives you a little...
Oh, my gosh. And I think Marty, I'm sorry, Sid even says, like,
that's
you don't
right,
take that
he
one?
does. Yes. You don't take that one? Yeah, but, you know, it's funny. I almost wish we got a little bit more of the look at what's going on at that bar when Trotter is not there. What's the normal nonsense that happens there, you know?
Right.
So then Trotter walks in. He has just won. He offers to buy everyone a beer, and everyone is silent. And this is when Looney, like a real baby, says, I may not have a bunch of money, but I know I did the right thing by not betting on a sure thing.
God, right? Oh my gosh, this is when I think I turn 180 degrees on Looney. I'm so angry at the whole situation. I'm angry. Okay, first of all, I'm also amazed at the fact that the entire universe that is the bar already knows that Trotter has won, and they've already like developed whatever their opinion is of that, which is to be bitter assholes about it, and to basically shun him. So when he like, some of them have their back to him, and they just know that his presence has occurred, and are all responding the same way. And then he gets that from Looney, and I'm thinking exactly what he says, which is like, "Are you kidding me? I gave it to you. What are you? How could you not?" And then he is right. His opinion is the not betting on a short. What kind of, which tells you what kind of loser outlook.
Yes.
Must you have? It makes no sense to me. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so angry at him there because I want him to at least stand up for him, and instead he comes up with that asinine, philosophy, which is he's the. When you think about it, he's the one that introduces Jay to the thing to begin with.
Absolutely.
Of course, just don't worry about that. I want you to hear this juicy smut. That is
how you know who Looney is. He is the guy who cannot see that sure thing right in front of his face. And even when he knows it's a sure thing, it's like, I'm going to do the right thing and not bet on it. As though, he has some morality to live up to or something. I don't know. And so, yes, like you say, Trotter goes ahead. And his response to this, to everyone, is, I told you guys which horse I was going to bet. I told everybody. And now here is where we get Mickey Jacks first likes to go ahead and say, he says his little story about, I know a guy who hit the 75 daily double, has to borrow money to go home. That's a story. That's it.
Right.
Just to let you know, hotshot, I knew a guy who won some money once. At the end of the day, that bum was borrowing money to go home.
Right. So again, the lesson is we're in here to root everybody down. And if you're not doing that, because I guess it's like, it's kind of sad, the whole thing, which is like the idea that the house always wins sort of thing. Like if you don't accept, like you're supposed to accept that and still be here. That's really what we're all trying to say. Come here and get involved and have your crazy theories and, jump up and down. But in the end, still lose and be okay with that, because that's generally what we're doing.
I guess everyone's very okay with that.
Yes. Right. Because generally they're losing.
So now we're going to get a story. And Eric, you already know what the story is, that Marty is going to tell the entire bar.
Yeah. I was going to just... it's so punitive.
Remember the story and tell everyone? What is the story that he tells?
Yeah. Right. So Jay... do you remember... He says, do you remember the time you rat-holed a 5 up your ass?
What?
It's almost all right. So right there, it's like the parent is humiliating the child.
Oh, yeah.
Right there. It's one of those stories about how you used to, wet the bed or something like that. That's how hard he's getting checked by Marty. Remember the time you rat-holed a 5 up your ass? And then when there starts to get murmurs about it, like he realizes it's playing to the audience, then he turns away from Jay and he's talking to everybody else. He's like, by the 10th race, he had to drop his pants in front of the window to get at it. And then you have to picture that. You're picturing him with his butt hanging up in the air, trying to reach in there for the 5.
Pull it out to bet.
Oh, my God.
And also...
to bet.
If he's doing that at the window, whoever that ticket seller
Yeah.
is, I'm gonna guess it's not
I
our
know.
ticket seller who mans the $50 window.
No.
But whoever that ticket seller is,
Right.
is that person taking that bet? Is he taking the 5 that came out of Jay's ass? I don't think so.
It gives you the impression that, like, okay, let's say you're a sanitation worker. So every so often you come home and you tell a story to your loved one about the most awful thing that they can imagine that happened today at work. And that's what it sounds like to me, is that, like, obviously these tellers have stories that we can't imagine, because if for Jay to even think that he could do that, why would he? First of all, why is he, this? Let me tell you, it almost has to be a fiction, that story, because it changes Jay so
God.
badly if it's right that Jay's the guy that would do that to begin with, and then the whole thing is so, it's almost irredeemable. You know, that would be Jay.
Had you heard the phrase "rat hole" before this film? Because I at the age of 14 3/4 had not for sure heard this phrase, but I immediately knew what it meant based on his context. Like, you could figure it out very easily.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna say. Not in that context. So when he says that, right? No, it's so horrible.
Yes.
Yeah. The idea that, again, all right, you either have to imagine that Jay is so consumed with his disease, which is just so even more hard to imagine. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, like, either, okay, it only works two ways. It's that, right, that Jay is so, like, out of his mind that he's doing something that's completely unacceptable, like we think, or that somehow, every now and then the teller's gonna be like, yep, guys are rat holing 5s in their ass, or whatever else is next. Like, yep, you wouldn't believe the things they walked up here with 9,000 pennies and expected me to take it for a bet, whatever. I guess that's the better of the two, because otherwise, however, there's Marty telling the story like it's of note.
Yes, like it's of note, and also, you would think, like, you kind of wonder how long in the past it was, but you would think everybody at that bar already knows this story, was around when it happened.
I know.
Like, maybe it was just like a year ago that this happened, right? 6 months, whatever it was.
That story needs to be off limits.
Oh my God.
If you're Jay, like, that has to be a betrayal by Marty to me. Like that, like that cuts it. That tears it right there, Marty. I'm never coming. But he doesn't act that way. He acts kind of like, I'm going home, everybody. Anybody want to?
When Marty finishes his story, everyone laughs at Trotter.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's just so happy to laugh at him. Trotter, the big winner.
Right.
We remember when you weren't such a big. Yeah, you're a big winner today. We remember when you weren't. We remember when you were the biggest loser among us.
For $710.
$710. Once that's done, Trotter then lets everyone knows. A winner knows when to quit and leaves. Which, of course, he's not quitting at all, but nonetheless,
Amen.
A winner knows when to quit. Although, maybe,
it's well said.
Maybe, Eric, at the end of the movie, he knows to quit. Huh?
Well, it certainly plays that way.
It does. I don't know that that's what would happen, but that's what I think we would like to think happens.
Yeah, that's a little bit of, like, serendipity right there. Although clearly at that moment, I mean, of course, we know it's a movie, so this can't be the end. But he's behaving 100%
he's
like
going
he's
to go
going to
home.
go home.
Yes, like the movie's going to end at the 40-minute mark.
So even though we know things change for him, at that moment, if you go backwards, you're going to say, yeah, he did mean that, because he was actually leaving, and then it occurs to him, wait, I got to take care of this business. This little piece of business.
Kinky business.
But
I want you to hear this kinky business.
That is so. It's so funny because of how gross it is. It's so gross. It's like I used to have a friend that, and you remember this friend,
okay.
so whatever. I would be talking. It was so out of line. Be like, oh yeah, you have to see the China Syndrome. It's so great. Like I'd be saying that, like this movie from 10 years ago. It's fantastic. It's all this, and he would say, "Has it got any good parts in it? Does it have any good parts?" That was his term for it,
nudity,
right?
for sexual situations.
Yes, exactly.
Good parts. Is there any good parts in it?
And basically, it was boobies. That was the next thing that he would say. Boobies. Is that boobies? Yeah, because that's when a movie has
when
good parts.
That's when you watch it maybe again, maybe some scenes in slow motion, depending. Frame advance at the time.
He's letting you know.
On your VHS, for those of you who are old enough to know.
Oh, definitely.
So much easier now. You can just get straight up slow motion if you're watching something like on YouTube. You could just slow it down or whatever you want. Yeah.
Man, I know. Who could have imagined that the lowlifes of the world would advance to this level?
Exactly right.
So that guy there is like, so Looney and my friend there, that's the same attitude. It's like he's totally okay with the fact that, hey, you gotta check out this kinky business. You're gonna love this smut. This chick's got a pillowcase over her head. So, what was I even saying? Oh yeah. So before he's genuinely, at least believes that he's leaving. So I think it lines up with what you're suggesting. He intended, like at that moment, that's exactly why he says it, because it's time. Which, man, I'm so disappointed. You know that, because it's like, how did you not bet more than $50?
I think that's all he had, though. I think here's what he said. I have $50, like squirreled away.
Yeah,
like he hid it for like this day. This is the big amount that he can hide, because he can't hide very much, right? Because he could barely keep the $5.
Mm-hmm. He couldn't do I'll say he probably couldn't do a whole lot better, but I think he could have come up with another 50. Go hawk something, Yeah, I mean, but especially the way he's behaving, and it's the fact that it's exactly 50. It's not 58.
Because, he knows that he's going to the $50 window. It's the biggest window that at the track.
Right.
And I'm just going to excuse everything. That's what I'm here to do.
No, you're right. No, it's for like the pump.
For the pump. Maybe that's exactly what it is. It's like, look, I'm going to go to the $50 window.
It is.
He probably never goes to the $50 window based on how the ticket seller treats him, right? The $5 window, which is where you like to drop your pants in front of, is over there, right?
Yeah, I don't know you, Mr. Ratholed.
I'm saving it up so one day I can go to that snooty ticket seller and buy a ticket from him. Yeah.
He's snapping the bill. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I get that. Yeah. In the real world, like if this is me, I'm coming with, $67. That's me. It's everything. I've got all my quarters that I've changed into dollars. I went to the 7-Eleven, turned them into bills, went through the car. And it's because I'm getting every bit of that. Because think about it. If you double that now it's $1,400. If you make it $100.
I'm with you. I mean,
that's major. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So he knows when it's time to quit. That's where we're at.
And then that's it for us. It's time to quit this scene, because that's the end of the scene. That's it. We made it.
Is that right?
Man,
oh man, there was hardly any Evangelina.
Yeah, she's just sitting next to Sid. She doesn't really say anything in this scene.
Yeah, she's almost a little like somewhat.
Yeah, she
intrigued.
Exactly. She hasn't. It's later on when we see her all angry at that damn horse, Sid. That damn jockey falling off that horse. That's later. Her best moment in the movie.
Yeah.
So I would like to point out before we're done here. I've had a number of messages from people since the podcast ended. Right. Mm-hmm. So there's a guy on Twitter named Dr. J Trotter. Who I know, right? How did I not run into that guy while the show was still running? But he found the show after we had finished it. But I did get this one note from this guy named Keith Stafford, who really enjoyed listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
But I thought this was interesting. He said that he first heard about Let It Ride when he was working at Fairmount Park as a veterinarian in 1996. And there was a horse running there named Lord Byron. And he thought, well, that's an interesting name for a horse. And then they told him that it's named after the horse in Let It Ride.
I love it. I love it.
That's how he found the movie.
Awesome
he watched
story.
it now, watches it every year around Derby and Breeders' Cup time. But, if you're going to name a horse from Let It Ride, right? Like, are you picking Lord Byron because that's the horse that doesn't win? Right? Like,
no, I don't.
Why aren't you going to name that horse Charity or,
right?
Junebug, maybe, if you're going for a horse that doesn't win, or Up Yours.
True. Right. No, there's so many references. Like, I can't imagine that be the only. Whoever this group is that owns that horse, maybe they've named some other horses too. It couldn't be the top choice.
Maybe they had a whole stable and it was all of the horses, right? And they were they were going through. They were just up to Lord Byron.
And maybe Lord Byron actually became. Maybe they named all of them, and then there was a whole bunch of mutters in there, or glue factory representatives in there. And they didn't make it. Lord Byron was one of the few. So, this doesn't... Yeah, you got to have Charity. You got to have Hot to Trot.
Or I really like Fleet Dreams.
I know, me too.
Cool
yes,
name.
that's such a cool name. It's a cool name. Yes, and Up Yours. Up Yours is great too. Yeah, they're all just great. Yeah, I remember. It doesn't work. It works to some extent. Charity, we've done this, right? Where the first horse, there's
there's symbolism to all of them. Absolutely. Yeah, no. I'm positive that each one has a specific meaning. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Except Lord Byron.
That's why.
Now, maybe Lord Byron is when he I just thought of this, but maybe that's when he thinks that he's king shit.
And that horse, that name comes from the Jockey Club, where he doesn't really belong.
Right. Yes. Right. Poetus. Poetantus.
Stop it, Jay. Stop it. Just stop it. It's terrible.
It's so funny. $2,500 times 2 is 5,000.
It's also the safest bet that he could make. It's the favorite? It's a 2-to-1. Get out of here!
It's got to be the favorite.
Stop it, Jay. That's not what you're there to do.
Right, and you know what? And honestly, I don't know that in the Jockey Club. I'm impressed hearing that he's spending a lousy $2,500. Like, does he already think that he's Jockey Club level right there? He's not. He's not. Come on. You know what happens when what's his name loses? I can't think of his name right now.
Oh, Bernie.
What's Alan Garfield's name? Bernie. When Bernie loses here, you know what he does? He raises his envelopes half a penny.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I'll take 2 dozen. I'll take 2 cases.
Right. Bernie lost his ass today. Yeah, so I mean, $2,500. You should have lied. If you're to try to come off like a big
That's
shot,
true. He could just make up any amount, right? See, but
nobody knows, right? Make it 25
he doesn't
grand.
belong there because he doesn't know how to play that game.
Right. That's true. Now, when it turns into $69,000, they're somewhat,
Yeah, but that's also where he gets the boot because he can't,
Yes.
jumping around like a lunatic.
I know. What does he say? Do not tolerate this kind of behavior or something like that?
No. When he kicks him out, he orders a whatever champagne, and it's like, it's like
that's right.
Yeah,
the guy puts the arm up.
No,
he puts the arm up.
I'm sorry, sir. We're a bit busy right now. Something like that.
That's what he says then. Yes. Yeah. Oh, you know what I'm thinking of? Oh my guys, I'm mixing it up with the Untouchables. It's I do not, Mr. Ness. I do not approve of your methods.
Yeah. Well, you're not from Chicago. Yeah.
I know I mean, that doesn't make the show, but that's such what a
great
line.
line.
God, I love that line, man. The whole God. Yeah. So, all right, it's the same attitude right there. Mr. Ness. Do not approve. Whatever. Go back to Canada.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Jockey Club. This episode was hosted and produced by me, Dan Delgado. Thank you to my guest, Eric Delgado. Our music is from Epidemic Sound. Our cover art is by Sean LeBrie. If you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you did, then I ask you to please check out my other podcast, The Industry. It's like Radiolab for movies, and it has me, and it's back for its 5th season, so what more do you need to know? You can find it wherever you get your podcasts or at industrypodcast.org. And yes, there will be a link in the show notes to it. There's also a link to get some Jockey Club merch and to get yourself the Let It Ride Blu-ray, just in case you haven't already done so. Now, if you're saving up all your pennies to bet on the 4-horse, I understand. You can still support the show by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you may be listening to this. If you want, you can contact me through email. It's dan@moviemaker.com. I'm on Twitter at _Dan_Delgado. And I'm on Blue Sky. I do not know what my handle is there. Just search for my name and I'm sure I'll come up. This has been Dan Delgado for the Jockey Club. Thanks again for listening. And remember, sometimes you could be walking around lucky and not even know it.